When we get on board an aircraft, few of us give a second thought to the mental health of the people in the cockpit.
Chaos in midair.
Take a seat, sir.
And he was like, let me out, I'll break your jaw.
You're gonna take a seat right now.
In a fit of rage, violently assaulted a flight attendant.
Pulling her hair and knocking 2 teeth out.
No, you don't put your hands on my flight attendant.
The dog reportedly barked softly during the first part of the flight, then it stopped.
Got the dog and he was dead.
69-year-old Dr. David Dow is now world famous as the passenger yanked off the overbooked United flight. The United CEO, Oscar Munoz, had first described Dow as disruptive and belligerent. But he changed his tune on Good Morning America and issued a full-fledged apology.
Do you think he's at fault in any way?
No. This flight attendant has had it with unruly passengers.
Shame on the passengers who have made this flight a living hell for the flight attendants.
Then another passenger calls the flight attendant a drama queen.
And I worked my butt off this entire flight to be called a drama queen. We're going back to the gate.
Oh, God! He's had enough.
We've been delayed here. We've catered to you the entire flight, and we do it because we love this job. That's right. But the fact that we get insulted and mistreated by passengers over things that we cannot control, it is disgusting.
Pure evil, the airplane travel industry. Dive into this topic. This includes Spirit Airlines, American Airlines, JetBlue Airways, Frontier Airlines, United Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, etc.
The Boeing 737 MAX still grounded after 2 deadly crashes. A whistleblower is going public to NBC's Cynthia McFadden, saying he warned the company about production problems before those planes went down.
What did it feel like the last day of Boeing, the day you retired?
Felt like I was abandoning Titanic.
So how much overtime was going on at this point? Did it double?
More than double. You work 7 days straight, you're beat, and you're tired.
He says during this period, many people worked weekend after weekend as there weren't enough engineers or electricians, and some ended up doing jobs they had never been trained for. A perfect storm for production problems, he says. He sent this email to the head of the 737 team in June 2018, expressing his concern that workers were inadvertently embedding safety hazards into our airplanes. I know how dangerous even a small defect can be to the safety of an airplane. He says he urged the Boeing manager to shut down the factory for a few weeks to straighten things out.
And what was his reaction to that?
And he said, we can't shut down.
Profiting U.S. companies when it comes to war crimes in the United States is involved in. Donald Trump's economic focus in dealing with the conflict in Yemen has allowed several American companies to make billions of dollars in profits from the Yemen war that's leading to a famine. The companies have benefited the most include Boeing. Boeing or any other aircraft manufacturer will produce as many planes as there is a market for. They will make planes until the last metals on Earth are all used up, or the air and the pollution is unbreathable. As long as there are people willing to buy them, they'll continue making them. This is why capitalism is not a sustainable system. Environmentalism and greenwashing from the airplane, travel industry. Several environmental groups sued Dutch carrier KLM for greenwashing. It is the first lawsuit to challenge the greenwashing campaigns within the airline industry. Green capitalism doesn't work as usual, and it never has. Capitalism is not a sustainable system. Pure point blank. That's the fucking cold hard truth about it and about the matter. Airplanes emit around 100 times more CO2 per hour than a shared bus or train ride. The emissions of global aviation are around 1 billion tons of CO2 per year, more than the emissions of most countries, including Germany. Left unchecked, global aviation will generate an estimated 43 metric gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions through 2050. Not to mention that the crop-based biofuel, or so-called agrofuel, which is made from food and feed crops like palm oil, often associated with deforestation and forest loss and biodiversity loss as a whole. Like many different sectors impacting biodiversity, the aviation sector can have adverse effects on biodiversity in a number of ways, including habitat loss when airports and airfields grow, the dispersal of management or wildlife practical purposes, and the effect of light and noise pollution on particular. With over 2,000 bird strikes recorded annually in the UK, bird populations are treated as hazards around airports and are controlled accordingly. Birds, amphibians, and vertebrates, fish, mammals, and reptiles can be very sensitive to light pollution. Studies have shown that low levels of human noise disturbance can severely impact the ability of animals to communicate and breed. Light pollution harms biodiversity by interfering with natural day-night rhythms and night habits, affecting the reproduction, feeding, and migration cycles of many different animal groups and bird species as a whole. Artificial lighting can confuse migratory birds, depleting their energy sources and threatening their survival rates in the wild. By extending the hunting time of daytime feeders, light pollution can also lead to predation of some nocturnal species. When combined, noise and light pollution from road, shipping, urban sprawl, as well as from aviation, can throw the lives of animal populations really out of balance. The illegal trade of wildlife is the fourth most lucrative black market in the world, worth around $20 billion a year, impacting more than 7,000 species of animals and plants as a whole. Criminal organizations involved in wildlife trafficking have often directly connected to other trafficking networks, including the smuggling of drugs, narcotics, arms, and people, and exploit the increasingly connectivity of global air transportation to traffic the endangered species as well. Airlines industry's treatment of customers and pets.
Capitalism is misery, United Airlines, cheapskate ways, killed an activist. So let's get started into this video. So everything in this video, by the way, is allegedly. Everything allegedly happened. So cheapskate billion-dollar company United Airlines has allegedly killed a disabled activist, Ugresa Furnoa, a fierce advocate for people with disabilities. She passed away on Sunday due to complications from her injuries she sustained when United Airlines allegedly destroyed her custom wheelchair, allegedly during a flight from Washington, D.C. to California to her home. The United Airlines damaged her wheelchair in the cargo hold, and they refused to buy her another wheelchair. And, this is not the first time United Airlines has caused controversy. They've caused controversy in the past, They're very known for their scandals. And instead of United Airlines replacing the demolished wheelchair because it was demolished and it was unsafe, United Airlines insisted that they would only pay for it to have it repaired only, allegedly. But a motorized wheelchair that has undergone that much extensive damage poses a severe risk of fire and is unsafe, in its entirety. The faulty alleged replacement wheelchair was not motorized, allegedly exacerbated her injuries, allegedly. Ultimately, United Airlines later on fully agreed to replace her wheelchair, valued at $30,000. However, in the months in which they fought, so long to, they fought against replacing the wheelchair, it took a toll on her body. Despite having a spinal cord injury and a left leg amputation, the victim was allegedly forced to wait 5 hours after landing at the airport. She was provided with another wheelchair that was allegedly broken and caused her more discomfort and more injuries, allegedly. The replacement wheelchair was said to have not supported her back and weight distribution properly, and because of this she developed a skin ulcer that became infected and gastrointestinal issues. The sore later became infected, and the infection eventually reached her hip bone, requiring medical emergency surgery to remove the infected bone and tissue. She died from those complications in an ICU very recently. The victim in the interview with ABC 7 News in August said she feared flying because her custom-made wheelchair was an extension of her body. According to figures from the U.S. Department of Transportation, airlines on average mishandle about 10,500 mobility wheelchair devices annually, amounting to almost 30, wheelchairs a day. This all happened because billionaire company refused to pay a measly $30,000 out of the billions of dollars, that they have. That's chump change for them. You have to remember that billionaires and millionaires should not exist. They literally got that money from exploiting the employees and the workers and all that, and they can't even pay for this fucking wheelchair, And so how much is United Airlines supposedly worth? The operating income is worth over $4 billion in 2019. The net income is worth over $3 billion in 2019. The total assets of the airlines is $52 billion in 2019, and the total equity of this company is $11 billion in 2019. Capitalism is misery. I made a video a while ago about how capitalism affects your mental health along with your physical health. And this is just an example of it.
In 2017, United Airlines forcibly removed a passenger, a doctor named David Dow, from flight 3411, all while giving him a busted, bloody, bruised face. In the process, the airline decided to bump up 4 passengers from the flight in order to make room for United staff members to a connection point. The airline offered passengers $800 compensation and a seat on a flight the following afternoon, but no one took the offer. 4 passengers were selected by the airline to leave without choice. The 4th passenger refused to leave following the call of it, explaining that he was a doctor and he had patients he needed to tend to the next morning. United employees summoned airport security officers, aka police brutality, who then forcibly removed Dow from a seat with violence and force. Dow's face was slammed into the armrest and his nose was bleeding, and he was dragged off the plane bleeding. Other passengers captured and witnessed this on the scene with their phones, despite the airline's employees trying to cover up people's phones to get people not to record the situation that was going on, sparking widespread outrage at United for their abuses. United CEO Oscar Munoz stated and defended the actions taken on that day. Our employees followed the established protocols and procedures with dealing with passengers like this. He added, I want to commend you for continuing to go above and beyond to ensure we fly right. He stood by it, but then when he started losing capitals and profits, he backtracked his comments because they were losing capitals and profits. Because, these industries and these capitalist companies value profits over lives every day under capitalism in the system. In the following day, some United customers cut up their United credit cards and posted images of their cards online. Company share prices slid on the news of the violent removal, plummeting $1 billion in market value. At least 2 of the security officers were fired. An unfortunate accident involving a pet on United Airlines flight underscored the fact that customers who brought pets on board may be putting their beloved animals at risk on the airplanes. A flight attendant insisted that a pooch, a small bulldog, I think, a French bulldog if I'm correct, be put in an overhead compartment rather than in front of the pet owner's seat, according to the NewYorkTimes.com website. This is actually against United Airlines policies. The story didn't have a happy ending, and the dog ended up passing away at the fault of the flight attendant and the airlines themselves. It was a worst-case scenario, and it's really sad that they had to lose their pet due to negligence. In summer of 2017, a mother who had no alternative but to hold her 2-year-old in her lap during a United Airlines flight. According to USAToday.com, she had paid over $1,000 for a child's seat, but that the airline sold the seat twice. The mother brought her son's ticket first, then the airline resold the same seat to a standby passenger. Rather than fixing the mistake in favor of the woman and her son, United Airlines had the woman hold her child in her lap during the flight. It was a long and uncomfortable flight because she had to carry the weight of her child. It's a lose-lose situation overall. When it comes to the treatment of employees / workplace environments, they are being treated like robot wage slaves, aka victims of capitalism. This is just typical capitalism. In December of 2018, flight attendants employed by United Airlines started picketing outside of airports to show their disapproval of proposed staffing cuts. According to CNBC.com, flight attendants felt they planned staffing cuts would negatively impact customer service and safety. Transport Workers United, which represents about 5,000 flight attendants at JetBlue, criticized the airlines, blaming flight attendants for not accepting enough assignments, causing delays and cancellations. The union argued JetBlue had responded to staff shortages and operational problems by increasingly disciplinary actions towards the workers who work their employees, including increasing the amount of critical coverage days workers must be able to work, or else they accrue disciplinary attendance points that could lead to firing/termination. They also said many flight attendants experiencing delays or flight changes have waited several hours for JetBlue to get them to a hotel room or transportation to a hotel room in city, cutting into the rest time. Some have given up, paid for a hotel or transportation out of their own pocket. You are kept hostage at times and are unable to get home. This is really hard for people who have children or parents that they need to help take care of. The flight attendant said, "They're not thinking of us as humans, only robots. We're still human beings involved in this too." The dizzying highs of the airborne lifestyle can come with side effects, including poor mental health, sleep disorders, and substance abuse problems, including alcoholism. Those factors compounded with crew members sometimes resorting to alcohol and prescription drugs to combat sleepiness or anxiety. Delta airline pilots are holding a series of demonstrations at airports this month, drawing attention to their fatigue concerns. Our pilots are tired and fatigued. Pilots are working longer days with shorter nights at home. Some pilots wrote they were tired after handling training responsibilities. Others said airline managers asked them to handle way too many extra flights because of the short staffing issue at these airlines. And American Airlines in the past issued stylish new uniforms for its flight attendants to wear. Pilots and representatives, and those uniforms are making it very tough for a victim of capitalism to do her job. One of the employees is one of at least 3,000 flight attendants who, since the introduction of the new uniforms, has reported experiencing symptoms including respiratory problems, lightheadedness, fainting, rashes, and stop periods. Some flight attendants have been able to keep working through their symptoms, others have not. The fashion industry alone has access to over 8,000 chemicals that are known carcinogens that could cause cancer and hormone disruptors, all the while the airline continues to avoid directly stating the responsibility. If there's any kind of health issue with the uniform, and many flight attendants who are unable to work due to their symptoms have been denied workers' compensation by the airline because American Airlines keeps gaslighting the victims of capitalism. They won't take any responsibility for what they did. When it comes to health/safety, the airplane restrooms are the worst places for germ contamination, according to the U.S. Today poll. According to Coverall Cleaning System, the bathrooms are sanitized between flights. These tiny sinks make it hard to wash hands properly, and studies have found E. coli on almost every surface on the plane's loo. Airline magazines and catalogs are also heavily contaminated because people's hands are touching it. 2019 airline water study released by DietDetective.com and Hunter College New York City Food Policy Center reveals that the quality of drinking water varies by airline. However, and many airlines have possibly provided passengers with unhealthy drinking water. The airline with the worst scores were JetBlue and Spirit Airlines, the study shows. United Airlines and other major airlines don't necessarily want their customers to know that air quality may be not optimal for their flights due to dirty air vents and other issues. Tray tables and seatbelt buckles are also parts of airplane cabins that tend to be very dirty. People are known to get sick when they fly frequently. This could be the cause, but not all the causes. Early on in the pandemic, instead of airlines advertising their new tropical destination, they began marketing the cleanliness of their planes. They tried to put COVID-concerned passengers at ease with measures such as HEPA filtration, free sanitizing wipes at the door, and deep cleaning after each flight. Today, however, your plane might look like it did in 2019 or before the pandemic, even dirtier. A victim of capitalism who worked at the airline was quoted in saying, she said her crew is expected to go from one plane to the other with few breaks in between, and that on the occasion she has been tasked with cleaning and inspecting an entire plane all by